Why am I showing you my cuff link? That's what you're probably wondering. Do we have transmission? I think we have transmission. Hi, everybody. There is a reason why I am showing you my cuff link. It's actually like a really funny coincidence. Maybe when you hear the explanation, you'll say you don't believe in coincidence. Hello, Fabrizio. Hello, Jamal. Can always count on you. Am I going to be able to count on Fabrizio and Jamal beating TC to the Saturday morning conversation when I move to YouTube? Because we're going to do that. I don't know if it'll be next Saturday, but by the Saturday thereafter, we will migrate our Saturday morning live conversations from Facebook over to YouTube. I'll continue to be active on Facebook, but we're having such success with those elements that we're putting up on the YouTube page, people really loving each radio show. I take one element and show you the video, little back of the house, see how the sausage is being made. And a lot of it is the front page commentary and the front page content for which I'm known, but also, you know, the out of the box stuff, like the mindfulness interview that I did this week with the great Pat Croce. Anyway, I'm ahead of myself. Hope that this is all working today, because I know that last Saturday it seemed like I was out of sync, my words and the video, and I trust that that's all fixed for today. Let me get back to my cuff link and what that has to do with today's CNN program. It's funny, during the course of the week, there are things that occur to me, news stories that are taking place that I have a perspective that I want to share. And sometimes I worry that by the time I get on CNN on Saturday, someone else will get there and will say what was on my mind. And then I feel like, oh, damn it, even though I had the idea in my head, or maybe I wrote out the notes myself, people will think that I'm the copycat, when in fact I was the original thinker of the idea, whatever it may have been. Anyway, this week I've got something to say that I've not heard anybody else say, and that is I want to compare O.J. Simpson and Derek Chauvin. And not because they are two murderers, although they are, but because of the way in which their trials were conducted on television. And so the commentary, and I'm sitting here right now just sort of fine-tuning it, but the commentary that I'll deliver on CNN today, that I'll give you a little sneak peek at, will be a walk down memory lane for many. And some may just scratch their head at the references. But I remember it all so well back in 1995, because I was just beginning my legal practice. I was practicing law by day with the late, great James E. Beasley, who was a legendary trial attorney. And because of the time difference between Philadelphia and California, I would get home at 6 o'clock at night and be able to watch with my wife, newly married, starting a family, the O.J. Simpson case, which was still in progress, although Lance Ito had a habit of knocking off early. It was a shit show. It was an absolute shit show. And yet we were all transfixed by it. Here's some of what I'm going to say on television today, on CNN. The trial of Derek Chauvin was a vindication for cameras in American courtrooms. Not since the O.J. Simpson criminal trial in 1995 have so many Americans gathered around televisions to watch the administration of justice. And then I'll give some of the data as to how many paid attention to Chauvin. Staggering number. In 1995, many of us were similarly obsessed with Simpson. Unlike Chauvin, Simpson quickly became a spectacle, big on personalities, but little in common with how trials are conducted all across America every day. Back then, the judge and the lawyers became as much the focus as the underlying facts. Okay, here's a little walk down memory lane now. You think of these individuals when I say their name. Johnny Cochran. Johnny Cochran. If the glove don't fit, you must acquit. If the glove don't fit, you must acquit. How about Robert Shapiro? I remember Robert Shapiro coming to a Philadelphia radio station after the case where I was then affiliated as a weekend guy and driving into the studio to meet him and really enjoying his company. F. Lee Bailey, the late great F. Lee Bailey, Alan Dershowitz. I should probably mention Barry Scheck now that I think about it for the DNA work that Barry Scheck did. They were the Simpson Dream Team. Also in my commentary today. We also met our first Kardashian, Robert. Remember Robert Kardashian? Robert Kardashian had that sort of jet black hair with a little white spot in the front of it. He was a lawyer. He was OJ's friend. He hid OJ for a while, as I recall, before OJ Simpson turned himself in. Now, this, of course, I needed to have help with. I knew that Robert Kardashian was the father of certain Kardashians, but when I wrote my script, I left it blank for my CNN colleagues to fill in the names, which they obliged. Apparently, Robert Kardashian was the father of Kim, Khloe, and Kourtney, all three of them. But Robert Kardashian was our first Kardashian. Okay, more references. Bruno Magli shoes. Do you remember, this is my recollection, do you remember that OJ said, and you can fact check me on this, look it up, I'd never wear such ugly ass shoes. Ugly ass is what he called. I'd never wear those ugly ass shoes. And lo and behold, when the criminal trial ended, a photograph surfaced of him wearing those ugly ass shoes, the same type that had left footprints in Nicole Brown Simpson's blood at the crime scene. And it was OJ working a sideline during an NFL game. Those were the ugly ass shoes. Isotoner gloves. Isotoner gloves. My recollection was that, you can tell I was a little obsessed with this, but again, maybe I'm wrong. But my recollection is that they were able to track the retail of OJ's gloves and that Nicole had purchased them for him at, I want to say, Bloomingdale's in New York. A limo driver. Here's a little trivia. Who remembers, your comments are scrolling past me so quickly that I can't keep up, but who remembers the name of the O.J. Simpson? This is like a drinking game. The O.J. Simpson limo driver. The limo driver who arrived in OJ to take O.J. because O.J. had to get to LAX because he was flying to Chicago. Chicago, where in his hotel room he said he broke a glass and that's how he cut his hand. Oh my God. The limo driver was Alan Park. Alan Park. How about these names? Furman. It was like a trifecta. You couldn't say Furman without saying Lang. Okay, who's the next one? Furman, Lang, and Van Adder. In fact, I think his name was Phil Van Adder. Do you remember that when Marcia Clark, oh, I'm so glad I'm going to get to say all this on CNN. I cannot believe that the verdict came in on Tuesday and nobody has made this comparison. The TV gods are smiling on me. Do you know that when Marcia Clark got a new hairstyle, it was a huge to-do? I think Lance Ito, the judge, even commented on it. The epitome, however, of how much of a spectacle the O.J. Simpson case became, the house guest. Come on, you remember his name? The house guest, America's most famous house guest. Who was it? Kato Kaelin. Kato Kaelin. There's more that I'm going to say, but I'm not giving away all here for free on Facebook. You'll have to watch me on CNN. But here's my point. That's what we remember about the O.J. Simpson case, about the O.J. Simpson trial. And the Derek Chauvin trial was none of that. And for that, we can thank Judge Peter Cahill. We can thank that big prosecution team. We can thank Eric Nelson, the defense lawyer. We can thank every one of the witnesses, not a Kato Kaelin among them. Minnesota showed not only how it can be done, but how it is done in courtrooms all across America every day. And so I am hoping that one of the legacies of the Chauvin trial is that it's a vindication for cameras in American courtrooms. Because I believe, just as you've got a right to walk into your local county courthouse or your local federal courthouse or the Supreme Court of the United States and plop down and watch, you too have a right to watch on television, and the media should be represented in courtrooms all across the country. The transparency provided by those cameras is the greatest of disinfectants. That's what I want to say about the Chauvin trial. Now, if you remember what I said at the outset before I got on my soapbox, I was talking about my cufflinks. What does this have to do with my cufflinks? I'll tell you what. The late, great Arlen Specter, Pennsylvania's longest-serving United States senator, was a friend and mentor of mine. Senator Specter was the champion of the idea of cameras in courtrooms, particularly the Supreme Court of the United States. And when he was on the Judiciary Committee, including when he was chairman of the Judiciary Committee, he would make it a point to question the nominees, the prospective justices, and get them on the record as to what they thought about cameras in the Supreme Court, where today there still are none. We only get audio recordings. And then what would happen is that invariably Senator Specter would get them to agree in principle. And then they'd go and get confirmed and put on the black robe, and they would have a change of perspective and no longer buy into the idea, arguably because they don't want people looking over their shoulder. So I am going to play footage, C-SPAN footage on CNN from an old Specter speech where he's making this exact point. And the funny thing is that a few of my shirts are French cuffs. I used to wear a lot of them. I got, my last order was 6 shirts, and I think I said, give me 2 that are French cuffs. And I got dressed very early this morning, you know, rushing to get out the door and come to the studio where I am now and where I'll deliver the CNN program without much thought. And when I got here and I spread out all of my show materials and my Sharpies and my coffee and everything else, I looked down at how I was dressed, and there's a cufflink that Senator Specter gave to me on my 50th birthday. And it's from Camp David. It says, can you see this? Presidential Retreat, Camp David. I'm just seeing if it has anything on the back that tells me on whose watch. So he was clearly given these cufflinks when he made a visit to Camp David. I don't know who was president at the time. He gave them to me as my 50th birthday present. And here I am today delivering a CNN commentary where I'll be invoking his name. I don't know if you believe in, you know, the lights just flickered kind of stuff. But I think that's pretty cool. I think that's pretty cool. So I've got great guests today on my program. I'm not even going to discuss that. I'm really excited about it. It's going to be 4 solid blocks with great guests. But the opening commentary will be asking people to get on board and take away from Chauvin. I mean, the lesson of the Chauvin George Floyd murder is, of course, a story of cameras. All the cameras that, including the 17-year-old who had the most complete record of what transpired. Where would we be without the footage of the murder of George Floyd? If it had simply been a he said, they said, believe me, Chauvin would have walked. So, I mean, like, that's the obvious point. The obvious point is that those cell phones all provided a record that were the core of this case. We all know that. But there's another lesson, and it pertains to cameras, and it's the cameras that were allowed in that courtroom so that we could all watch the administration of justice. That's my serious pitch today. Okay, stay tuned to the Facebook page right here for instruction as to when and how we will next meet soon on YouTube. If you're not a YouTube fan, you don't have to pay anything. TC, could you put some instruction in here about how people find me on YouTube? It's real simple. And I'm so proud of the video content that we're now creating from each day's radio show. It's really great. Gives you a back of the house. And TC makes some cameos, which I know you all like to see. Okay? All right, until we meet again, maybe one more time here. Maybe we go straight to YouTube next weekend. I don't know. Pay attention to the page. And yeah, think about those OJ references. Brings back a lot of memories, doesn't it? And in the end, a total miscarriage of justice. All right, see you, gang. Thank you. Have a good day.